Hey, everybody, it's Donovan with the Music Retail Podcast. I want to thank you for being here today and for watching today's episode. I think you're going to really enjoy it. You know, my goal with the Music Retail Podcast is to interview people that are interesting, that have something to give and to share, that can help you build a better business. In order to make sure you receive future updates, please like and subscribe. That not only will keep you in the loop for things as they come up, but it also helps the YouTube algorithm to know that people actually like this content and will share it around. Okay, let's get to the interview. Okay, so today this is going to be a lot of fun. I'm talking with my friend Jeff Bertrand from Bertrands Music. And Bertrands Music is a family-owned and operated music store with 8 locations in Southern California. They're focused on school band and orchestra sales, rentals, lessons, and repairs. And this conversation, I think, is going to be really interesting because the history of your business, it's a family business started by probably father. Someone will get into that in a minute. And then, of course, you've got your brothers that are involved in it. And the whole it's just going to be really interesting. And, of course, any music retailer operating in California has a whole unique set of challenges that are going to be fun to kind of hear about and hear how you guys have thrived in that situation. So, Jeff, welcome, and give us a kind of a rundown about the business. Who has it started, when, who, all that kind of stuff.
Sure. So my father, John Bertrand Sr., started Bertrands Music in 1983. He was a music educator for 15 years. And after 15 years of, doing music education, he just really wanted to do something different. So he actually went to work for a music store called Gary's Music in the San Bernardino area, which is where my older brother John and I grew up. And when he started working for Gary's, his goal was always, because he was an educator and he was serviced by reps, my dad's very innovative. He'd always have ideas or suggestions on how they could, change a program or improve a program. And after working at the music store for a couple of years, he realized that without having that ultimate decision-making process, that a lot of his ideas would never really get implemented. And so ultimately, he ended up leaving and starting his own business in 1983. And his goal then, and it's still our goal today, is really to be the ultimate school music store. And really provide the best service and the best solutions for schools. So we may get into this a little bit more later, but we always like to say, we're creating partnerships with our schools, and we try to avoid the word no. So no matter what, is asked, we try to find a solution to their problem. We can't always find the solution, so sometimes we have to modify what is a better scenario or a better way to make that program work. But we really believe, and my dad says this to this day, that every single child should have the opportunity to learn a musical instrument during their normal school day.
Mm-hmm. I think, one of the things that I've always admired about you and your business, and one of the things that I've always found really interesting, is that in a lot of aspects, there's a lot of similarities between the way you guys operate and think about your business and the way that I operate and think about my business. Even the fact that you kind of isolate the fact that we focus on school B&O, sales, rentals, lessons, and repairs. Like I always tell our people, we've got the 4 tenets of our business, with retail, rentals, lessons, and repairs. And, thinking about how you serve that customer and thinking about your customer, especially being like a band director, the goal is to say yes all the time and be a resource, advocate, and partner with those people. And you want to have the type of partnership and relationship that's mutually beneficial. And, where you're helping those people essentially provide a living for you and your people, and generally if our educators ask us for things, it's things that they believe will make their programs better and stronger and healthier. which in turn make our businesses better, stronger, and healthier. And so, yeah, our instinct is the same as yours. How can we say yes? We almost always will say yes, you know?
Right.
I think with your dad being a former music educator probably made that a natural, right? I mean, he probably just had a lot of inclination to kind of, you know, back those people up.
It did. I mean, because he would get frustrated. I mean, the service was good when he was an educator, but he would be like, hey, can you guys do this? Can you guys do that? And they'd say, nope, we can't. And, you know, he never wanted to be the store. Obviously, we all need to keep our lights on, right? We all got to have, we all got to make money. We all got to have employees. Our employees got to have a livelihood, which in California is a little more expensive to live than other parts of the country. But at the end of the day, you know, we want to provide as much opportunity and support as we can.
Right. So your dad started it in 1983. At what point did you get involved?
So my story is a little interesting because I actually had never really had a desire to work in the family business. It's just my personality. I'm just kind of a make my own way type of guy. I don't know why, but I never wanted anyone to look at me like, oh yeah, well, you know, you just work for your dad and he just handed you the business and you don't really do anything. And I actually, when I went to college, after college, I went to work for a minor league baseball team. So I spent 1 year as an intern in Colorado Springs. I worked for 9 months with no pay. It was very interesting.
I bet.
That was my passion, and that's what I loved at that time. And I did such a great job as an intern. They gave me a job in Idaho Falls paying $8,000 a year. So it was me and 2 other interns. We moved up there and we shared a 3-bedroom apartment, and rent was rather affordable in Idaho. So that helped, but it was still really very difficult. I still had student loans, still had other obligations. So after about 3 years of in Idaho Falls, I decided, you know, I think it's time to move on from this dream. As much as I love it, it's not going to provide a living for me in the long term. So I moved back to San Diego, which is where I went to college. My family actually did not live in San Diego when I was growing up, but after I graduated from college, they decided to move to San Diego. I guess they figured since I was gone, it was safe to come now. And anyway, so they had moved to San Diego with my 2 younger brothers, Joel and Jacob, who there was quite an age gap, 11 years between me and Joel and 13 between me and Jacob. So it was almost 2 different families. So I moved back to San Diego. That's where my friends were from college. And I immediately started to look for jobs. And I had several different interviews. And ironically, at the same time, my dad had just, I think, unretired for like the 10th time. My dad loves to retire and unretire. And just opened a store in San Diego. So as I was looking, he said, you know, why don't you just come work part-time at the store? You know, it's just me. I could use some help. So I started working there part-time, and then after 3 or 4 months, part-time became full-time. And now after, I guess, 25, that was 1998, I think. So I guess after 22 years, I'm still there full-time. So it's been an interesting journey. I think I've added a lot of value to the business. Like I said, it wasn't my original dream or goal to work for the business. But I'm very thankful that the opportunity was there and for what I've been able to give to the family business.
Well, how would you describe the culture of your store, both from like, you know, employee perspective and the customer perspective?
So, you know, we work very hard on culture. We have a set of core values that we try to adhere to as staff and as leaders of our company. There's 7 of them total. A few of them really talk about what we are as an organization, which is customer first, music advocacy, adaptability, positivity, and teamwork. The other 2 are community and trustworthy. But we really try to instill in our employees these core values. And we want all of our employees to align with our core values to the point where, in our quarterly reviews, they are judged on these core values. You're either in alignment or middle of the road or
Mm-hmm. Are you guys a traction business? Are you an EOS traction business?
We're using the traction model, just like our core value adaptability. We like to do things, put our own spin on things. Some things I think you can get too deep into the weeds on. So we definitely are using a lot of the fundamentals of the traction. For example, you don't have 7 core values in traction. We felt these were important core values. Mm-hmm. Additionally, we have our daily stand-up meetings, which happen every day in all of our locations. And these core values are reaffirmed in these meetings. Often during the busiest times of the year, we will have a core value of the day or a core value of the week. Rental season, positivity seems to come up a lot, teamwork. You really need, that support when, working those long hours.
Yeah.
And then we have posters throughout the store reassuring our, so our customers and our staff know our core values. And then additionally, we have a program that my brother Joel has probably talked about at a couple different industry sessions called Bonusly, where employees can reward other employees when they are in alignment with the core values. It's a really strong program, promotes a lot of positivity and positive comments amongst staff. And the beauty of it is you can't, you can't give yourself core values. You have to use your points towards other people, which is really nice. And then I think the second half of that on the customer side is really that customer first. We firmly believe, even when it means we lose money, which happens, that we need that customer to walk out of our store 100% satisfied. One negative review is so powerful, and we can't always please everybody, but that is really our goal. And we implemented a few years ago a lifeline system where, depending upon your role in the company, you have a certain amount of dollars that you can utilize as a lifeline to save a customer. So one of the really interesting questions that my brother Joel asks in an interview, and people often fail this question, is it's a simple tuner question. Okay, the guy brings in the tuner. He bought it 31 days ago. Our return policy is it needs to be returned within 30 days. And it's obviously used. And he says, this is broken. It never worked. I want my money back. What do you do? And, often they struggle with the answer because they think the answer is they should stick to the policy. And, they should say, I'm sorry, this is obviously used. It's broken. But at the end of the day, it's, a $20 tuner that maybe we paid $10 for. And it's like, what is that $10 worth to us? It's just easier to just take care of the customer.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Thinking, Bob Nagin talks about the lifetime value of the customer, and you're thinking about, that customer, how much are they going to spend with you over the lifetime of their music career? And it likely exceeds the value of any one single transaction or return.
Yeah, we like to look, and it's hard, trust me, I fail often, but we try not to look at every single transaction, but we try, just like you said, to look at the big picture. Okay, we lost on that one, but you know what? Let's win on the next one.
Yeah. You win on enough of those things and you'll win overall for sure.
Exactly.
How would you describe your business in terms of like, how is it different from your local competition?
So we have some really good competition throughout Southern California. Depending upon our location, our competition changes. In some of our locations, our competition is the same. They're very strong. They run good businesses. Some of them have a slightly different niche than we do. Although they're all in some way, shape, or form involved in, school business, rentals, lessons, even repairs. Some of them have a slightly different focus than we do. I think for us, that really key difference is that partnership. That is our motto or our slogan. We're partners in your musical journey. We want someone to start their journey with us, and then we want them to keep their journey, however long that might be. You know as well as I do that some people's musical journey is 2 months, and some people's is a lifetime. But we want to be, part of the start of that journey, and then of course lead you to wherever that journey is going to be. And that's really where, our ability to say yes and to be creative and to be helpful and create innovative programs that really promote, new music learners has really, I think, set us apart from our competition. And the other thing I think is, we don't give up. So I can give you countless examples. One of our best accounts today would have nothing to do with me for over 10 years. And I finally got him to switch. And he was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe the difference. Because people don't know what they have, they don't know what they don't have until they get it.
Yeah.
And many stores provide great service, and we just try to go that extra mile, that extra step. And I don't think I've ever lost an account that I've gained back to another competitor. Some people still share. That's how some directors like to be, and that's fine. There's a lot of the pie to go around. But overwhelmingly, the message I hear from our directors in our schools is like, wow, I should have switched earlier, or wow, I can't believe the things that you guys do. I didn't even know that these options were possible.
Yeah. Yeah. So taking the current, COVID situation out of the picture, normally, what does your day-to-day look like for what kind of things you work on personally?
So before COVID, we really had a nice structure there's four boys. My dad is I think really retired this time, although COVID has kind of brought him back again.
Oh my gosh.
Every once in a while he likes to rear his head, but it is still his business, and he is still responsible for that financial burden at the end of the day. So we certainly appreciate and respect any input or advice or decisions he wants to give. But before this pandemic hit, we really had structured our business. So I had really kind of become the leader at the top of the company. I work a lot on the financial side of the business, and then a lot on growing the school accounts. I'm not sure why, maybe because I don't have kids. Maybe that gives me more flexibility. But I spent a lot of time building our accounts. And now I'm just kind of monitoring the overall progress of the business. So I have my thumb on all the financials. I still have a little bit in in the road activities, but I've given that up. And my older brother John handles most of the road activities and all of the purchasing and inventory management. Joel manages all the retail operations, the day-to-day, which 8 locations is a ton of work. And then Jacob, who's only been in the business for a few years now, has taken on the lessons and the repair side of the business. So I have the big picture. John has some of the inventory and purchasing decisions, and then Joel, of course, is doing all the operations. And then I also do a lot of the marketing.
So it's a good division of labor. I think, taking over for the founder of a business, especially one who's, kind of a visionary, an idea person, charismatic, like your dad would have been, or dad is, that's got to have some challenges. You've run into, of course, some of the powdered butt syndrome. You're the famous saying, once someone's powdered your butt, they don't really want your advice on sex or money, and so there's probably some challenges of that. And then there's got to be, I would think there's challenges of, 4 brothers, all with similar names, trying to find their space and their roles inside this business. So tell me some of the stories, or tell me kind of how that process, has it been smooth and easy by and large, or has there been challenges and knockdown dragouts? How's that gone?
Well, there's definitely been some challenges. The funniest thing, and I'll just start with working with my dad, is when he was the ultimate decision maker and I just did, whatever we did. I, of course, still tried to help with ideas or whatever. We really got along great. And since he's kind of let the reins go a little bit and kind of said, hey, it's in your guys' shoes now, we butt heads a lot. At the end of the day, it's all good. But it's an interesting dynamic, one that I would not have expected.
What do you think caused the shift?
I think, and my dad is really good at letting us make those decisions, but of course, he also has 35 years experience in this business. And, he still has his ideas that he wants to see. We have to try to do our best to respect his decisions, but we also have to know that our business is not the same as when he was running it. We didn't have 8 locations. There's a lot of things we do today that we didn't do back then. So we can't implement everything that's, he used to. And then when we go on to the brothers' relationship, that's actually been really, really strong. They have, I don't really like to call myself the leader of the company. I just don't feel that way. I just feel that we all lead this company. I know some people look at me as the leader, but it really doesn't happen without all of us, including our staff. But they have respected that role. So we try to make decisions as a team whenever possible. And at the end of the day, if I choose to go a different path than what the decision came to, they respect that decision. They might get disgruntled, and we have a couple of, drag out fights and arguments, and you're wrong. No, you're wrong. But at the end of the day, we're family. We love each other. We have a very, very strong family value. So, my wife jokes, she goes, your relationship, because she has 2 sisters, she goes, the difference between guys and girls is just so different, because if we as sisters get in an argument, we hold the grudge and we remember it. And you guys will be in this drag down knockout fight, and then an hour later you're just like, buddy, hey, what's going on?
Oh man, that's so good. That's good. Well, I'm glad that you guys have been able to it's a family business that works well together. It can just be a beautiful sight. And because there's a lot of love and trust there. When they don't work well, they can be one of the most horrible things to have to witness. And, but it's great that you guys do get along so well.
I think part of the last part of that is just that we do have our own unique skill sets. So there are just things that John, as an example, he's just so much better at than I am. So that's why he's in the role that he's in. And, I've learned a lot from Joel as far as, positivity and keeping employees productive. But that was, something that I really struggled with. For me, I work hard every day, regardless of what the situation is. And I've done that in every job that I've ever had. So, it's hard for me to sometimes, understand that other employees or staff or people might have different opinions about how something should be done or the amount of effort that needs to be put into a project. And so because all of us, including Jacob, have these different skill sets, it's really helped us divide the workload, and it's really just kind of made the transition a lot easier, because there's things that they're doing that I really don't have any interest in doing, and they're better at it than I am. So let them run it.
Yeah, that's great. So thinking about your 8 stores, obviously the skill set for operating 8 locations is a lot different than a single location. And matter of fact, I'd say operating 1 is a skill set, operating 2 is a separate skill set, 4 is different yet again, and then probably 8 is yet another whole new bag of tricks. So what are some of the things that you've had to put into place, systems, protocols, procedures, as you've grown these additional outlets for your business?
Yeah, the way we operate today is so different than the way we used to operate. We used to, we had individual stores that would do their ordering, they would do their receiving. We've had a warehouse for several years, and we have shifted that inventory process for several years to a centralized in ordering and receiving system. And there's a lot of challenges with that because it delays product for stores. We're making weekly runs to each of our locations, but from our warehouse to our furthest location, which is in Burbank, taking in California traffic can be 2.5 hours one way, and then you got to load and unload. So, just getting to that store and back in one day is a full day for a driver. And we just recently, in about a year ago, purchased a larger warehouse, which we were in desperate need of. We were looking for a few years for a larger location because we were just busting at the seams. We somehow made it work. I don't know how, but with summer repair and rental returns and all that, we just didn't have the space to really operate. So our new warehouse, which is almost 10,000 square feet, really gives us that ability to function as a real warehouse and provide the services that each of our stores need in a quicker manner, with less mistakes. We would often lose product, or hey, where's this? Hey, remember that sign we made last year for the holiday sale? I need that again. Oh, I don't know. Well, where'd you put it? Wherever there was space.
Wherever there is space. If that's not the most perfect answer, I think we can all relate to that. So we have a similar model, right? And it's probably a little bit different. Like my stores are 3 or 4 hours apart. but that means they're a couple hundred miles away from each other. Your stores are 2.5 hours apart, and they're like 20 miles down the road.
Right.
We've just found even, I feel like we've got a good point of sale and inventory management system and AIMSy. A lot of things I don't like about it. I've talked about it a bunch on the podcast. I won't really necessarily get into it today unless you want to, and then we're totally happy to dish on it. But, it's got all the business logic that you need. But I've still found that the challenge of keeping stores stocked with appropriate inventory levels has been challenging. And, I think our stores are slightly different than yours in that we're also really heavy into guitar and guitar amps, where I believe you guys just kind of do some guitars and stuff, but it's not like, you're not deeply supporting major lines.
Right.
For us, we would use the basics of min maxes and stuff like that, but it hasn't been to the last, honestly, probably the last few months, where our purchaser that's been with us for the last couple of maybe 2 years, he's just put a lot of time and effort into developing a warehouse system and the logic behind what products get warehoused in the warehouse versus what products get warehoused in the store, and trying to just use that inventory more efficiently. And I'm just amazed at all the stuff you just have to figure out on your own. There should be an easier, quicker way to learn all this stuff and do it, and not just learn it through trial and error and expense.
Yeah, I mean, you hit on a couple of points. Inventory management, and this is why, I'm not sure that it's the most efficient or I'm not sure we're getting the most benefit from having my brother manage all of that ordering process. But inventory is such a large cost, and just like I do, it's not even a cost until you sell the darn thing.
Mm-hmm. That's
just
true.
the cash flow. Staff gets frustrated with some of the decisions we make on inventory, but we're really managing that. I mean, with 8 locations, you have to manage so different, because you can't afford, one additional product in 8 locations that you don't need is a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And it's taken us a while to figure that out. We use AIMSy. I'm sure there's some things that could be better, but we really understand the system. For the most part, it's really strong. We use the transfer system very successfully. Even to the point where if we have to move repairs around, which occasionally we do, that's another challenge with the multiple locations.
Mm-hmm.
Some locations aren't large enough to have a repair tech or don't have enough demand to have a repair tech. So we actually have to manage the movement of repairs, which takes a lot of time and effort. You want to make sure every tech has enough work. If you're only going to that location once a week in the summer, for example, you got to really plan and make sure that, hey, I got to make sure he has 7 days of work.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes a lot of time and to manage all that repair movement as well.
How you just mentioned AIMSy and tracking repairs. How are you tracking repairs in AIMSy? Because AIMSy doesn't technically support that amongst locations.
They don't. It's really a struggle because we actually physically go into the ticket and move it. So, and this has been a challenge. Do we move it when it actually leaves the location? Do we move it when? But the biggest way we've solved this problem is through a Google document, which just has our driver sheets on it. So, and this has morphed over time. It used to have a bunch of stuff on it, but now it just basically has like the date, the location it came from, the location it was going to. It actually has an intermittent location now because sometimes things stop at another location because, like, for example, our Pasadena general manager oversees Pasadena, San Bernardino, and Burbank, and he lives close to San Bernardino. So sometimes we'll send things to Pasadena, that need to go to San Bernardino to get them there quicker. And then he'll, take it over to the San Bernardino store. So we're able to use this sheet, which has the reference number and the locations, and then we can just do a quick search. Someone says, hey, where is ticket number 197432? And we can just go to the Google document, click search all, and we can say, oh, okay, this shows that, regardless of what it says in Ames, this shows that our driver took it to Pasadena on this day. And we really, with this driver sheet system, have really cut down on the random searches. I forget the word we used to call them, but I mean, it was like a manhunt.
Right.
R13 from Joe High School's missing. Everyone stop what they're doing and find the R13.
Right. Yeah, we've the way that we've handled it is there's a couple of things. I mean, one, we've created just some line item services that just have where it's located or where it's going to, in transit to such and such location, which has kind of helped. And then, but you have to then go in and modify the service ticket to update it. But the thing that has just helped keep stuff from getting lost is one of our operations managers at our store in St. Louis. His name's Tony Marks, and he's probably the smartest guy we've ever had working for us that does operational, like just managing the warehouse, flow of inventory. He's super sharp. But he came up with this very simple idea of just color-coded strips of paper that have the store's name, the date, who requested it, and the customer. And they're just literally like, half of $1 bills, width, and each store has its own color, and they just print these off and cut them up, and then it just goes on the case handle, and it's stapled or taped or however it needs to be on. And that way, that like wherever I'm seeing this instrument, it's supposed to go to this other location. It's here with me. It shouldn't be because it has a purple tag. So that means it's supposed to go elsewhere. And that has helped us just quickly. And the nice thing for us is if we're, making multiple deliveries or whatever, we can just look inside a vehicle quickly and, pull the colors for a store. It's yellow. Okay, it's got to go to Kansas City. And now we're just pulling all the yellow items. And, so it's simple, but very, very smart.
Yeah, we have a similar system with our rental returns, because when we had, our rentals in general, when we had no space, it was really hard to determine what status this instrument was in. I mean, we had areas the best we could, but it could easily get crossed over. So a couple of years ago, I found a tag company. It's the same thing that like you would do with the old airline tags where they give you one, you write your name on it. But we just color coded those tags, and if it's got a red tag, we know it's returned. If it's got a green tag, we know it's rental ready. If it's got a yellow tag, we know it needs repair. So it's really helped that process in identifying what is this, rental ready, what's the situation on it.
Yeah.
So I applaud your employee that discovered that color coding system.
Oh, man.
Cool, isn't it?
Well, and what was so great is when he first proposed it, I was like, I don't think it's necessary. Like, we have these other systems. If we just use these other systems, it'll be fine. And, thank God they didn't listen to me because he was totally right. There's been so many times where I've been saved by that. And I'm thinking, man, thank God Tony just did what he knew was right. And didn't take, I didn't tell him not to do it. I just did. I was like, kind of whatever. If everybody would just use the system the way we designed it, we wouldn't have to need these color. That was kind of my standpoint, which was stupid.
I think I'm going to steal that one from you, because when we're transferring inventory, we not so much anymore because we have the driver check sheet, but we still have those issues where the product ends up in the wrong spot.
Yeah, it's genius, man. It just creates a lot of clarity, especially when you're looking inside of a van. And like, even if it's a box full of accessories, outside the box got the color tag on it, it's idiot proof, which if I have to be involved with it, we got to make it idiot proof. So, the other issue with 8 stores, of course, is, how do we get to 8 stores? And have you guys opened them up from scratch? Have you bought existing stores? What's kind of been your strategy for that?
It's been a combination of organic growth and purchase of existing stores. I think actually probably more purchases than organic growth, but we have done a combination of both. Over the years, we've developed a lot of relationships with a lot of music stores, and we just let them know, hey, we're still growing. We know now isn't the time, but when the time comes up, please give us a call. We'd love to sit down and discuss any opportunities. We also have always tried, to try to keep in our own space for the most part. If there's an area we don't really belong in, and it's being serviced well, we kind of tend to leave that alone. That's probably changed a little bit over the last couple of years, just because, as with Amazon and all these other providers, it's so hard to continue to find revenue. So you do have to reach out beyond, your normal market share.
Yeah.
But those relationships have really helped us when people were ready to move on for whatever reason, and helped us grow our family.
I found that having those relationships are so important. And, years ago, I heard someone say that, when dealing with your competitors and fellow people in your industry, it's just better to deal with them with an open hand than a closed fist. And, I after going through a time period where I dealt with my competitors more with a closed fist, I realized how that was making me feel. And I was just having a lot of bitterness and anger, and, I was getting too competitive in the wrong way. And so I decided, man, I'm sick of feeling this way. I'm sick of living this way, and started changing that around. And what I found is, by being more that open hand, whether that means that sometimes that means I'm sharing information, it always means I'm at least friendly and nice genuinely friendly and nice to people, not just superficially friendly and nice. But I get a lot of opportunities, and I don't always take the opportunities. But sometimes those opportunities come through the form of purchasing someone's business as a going concern. So we go in and take over and continue to operate it, like we did with Ernie Williams' music or Fazio's music. Sometimes it's just helping someone close a business, and we may purchase their inventory or rental assets. But honestly, the last one we just did earlier this year, we didn't even pay any money. We took over all their operations and shared revenue with the stuff that they had on receivables, but we didn't really have to pay any real cash. And it was a great deal for them and a great deal for us. So I think being approachable on these kind of things is such a great idea, because there's money to be made on all of it, whether you operate that business as a going concern, or whether you liquidate it, or just buy inventory cheap, or get access to accounts, or whatever it is. Like, there's an opportunity there if you'll spend the time to try to figure it out.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of opportunity, and what you were just saying just speaks volumes, because when you have that relationship, they're willing to work with you, and you can structure deals that are beneficial to both of you, and not having to come up with cash out the door. That is very, very powerful.
It was good for us and the other person, because it minimized their taxable issues that they would have encountered had we paid them cash. I was in a situation where I just really didn't have the cash to pay it, or that I wanted to pay it. And it was a win-win for both of us.
I agree.
Sometimes with that philosophy, though, people do make it challenging. We had someone that is a competitor, but also I would say is a friend. I don't know hopefully he feels the same way about me. And but he'd contacted me a few years ago and said, "Hey, I've got this new store manager, and he's got a lot of potential, but I mean, I just don't know how to train a store manager. I grew up in this business. My parents started. I don't know how to do it. Could I send him to you, and would you guys train him?" And I was like, "Man, this is really testing my open hand." I'm like, "Yeah, go ahead." I was like, how long are you thinking? He's like, "I don't know, like a week." And I was like, "Oh, Jesus." Like, like, okay, yeah, go ahead and send him. And I should mention, this wasn't a competitor that was across the street. This guy was like, an hour away, and he was in a market that I didn't directly have a store. So it's a little different than the guy down the street would be, but it was still difficult. But I feel like it helped our relationship, and in my mind, I felt like if it helps him serve his customers better, it helps our industry, it helps educators. It's not a lot of skin off my nose to do it. And who knows where this relationship may take me in the future, that because I was there to help. And it's not going to really hurt me. And, what the hell? Let's give it a shot. And I found that that's worked for me way more than it's worked against me.
Yeah, I mean, it's the whole big picture thing we talked about earlier. Even if it's from a customer or a competitor standpoint, you got to look at the whole piece of the pie and not just that, one interaction.
Yeah.
Of course, when you're buying or, purchasing at some point in time, the biggest challenge often is value. We all feel our business is worth a different amount than what it really might be worth on paper.
Yeah.
So that's always a difficult challenge to overcome.
Well, and this will be a newsflash, but for a lot of older business owners, people who've been in this industry for a while, a lot of those guys actually have no idea about how business finance or valuations work. And I feel like it's a lot different now. I actually did at an upcoming or another episode that I've recorded. The other guest was kind of, deriding some music retailers in general. And I shared, like, boy, in my experience, I just feel like the capabilities and sophistication of music retailers today is greater than it's ever been, at least in my lifetime and since I've been in the industry. Not to say there's not some music stores that don't know what they're doing and stuff like that, but man, there's some super sharp people that are in their industry, and not of even so those that don't have a ton of experience. Like, there's just some really really good operators, and I've often found that the younger they are, actually they're usually got some better tools in their pocket and maybe some better resources and better alliances and stuff. The guys that are quite a bit older in the industry often tend to have a misperception of what they think their business is worth and how valuable it really is. And so part of that process is just education,
Right.
And when they reach out to me for stuff like that, I tell them, like, look, it's probably unlikely that something will come out of this, but what you will get is at least our opinion of what your business is worth and what you would need to do to make it worth more. And, which we go in it with the idea of trying to help, even if we don't buy it,
Right.
It's a challenging thing sometimes, though. How have you dealt with that? How have you dealt with that issue where the guy thinks, like, oh, I've got all this inventory and, my business is worth a ton. And then you go in and, like, well, yeah, but that inventory is 17 years old. How have you guys dealt with that?
We have a pretty good structure in place on how we're going to evaluate inventory. We probably tend to be a little more generous than most of our competitors who are out there purchasing businesses. So I think that helps a little bit. But, I mean, like you said, it's an education process. Say, look, I don't care what you paid for this R13. It's been sitting on your shelf for 5 years. It isn't worth what you paid for it. Not alone, I probably have to put new pads on the thing, because if I sell it to somebody, the pads are going to go bad as soon as they start playing it. And just letting them know that, hey, an item is worth what you can get for it.
Yep.
My small business professor this is kind of on the topic, a little bit off, but he used to tell me, he said, Jeff, he said, it's only a deal if you need it. And I said, well, what do you mean? He goes, well, let's say I've got this $100,000 boat that I want to sell to you for $15,000. You have no interest and no need for a boat. Is that a deal? So, and that mentality kind of, when I'm going to buy the business, it's only a deal if I really need whatever that item is that I'm buying or the business that I'm buying.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just throwing money away.
I would challenge that a bit. I wouldn't say he's wrong, but years ago when Best Buy was getting out of MI, we bought out all the inventory of our local Best Buy, all their MI inventory, and we bought it out at closeout rates. So we paid a percentage of wholesale, and it included a lot of product that we don't deal with: turntables, DJ equipment, just all kinds of stuff. But we figured, we were able to pretty quickly list that stuff on eBay, flip it, and make money. And but we didn't need any of it. I guess what we needed was more money. We needed more profits and revenue, and so therefore this fit that mold for that. But we weren't interested. We weren't looking for lights and turntables. But we're always looking for ways to make more money. So
right. I mean, the need was a way to generate revenue.
Yeah. I think my buddy Jim from Blues Angels Music, he told me once that they have a very robust eBay business, and he's got a great music store and guitar shop in Pensacola, Florida. But he was like, "Man, I'll sell anything. Like if a customer wants to trade in a bulldozer, if I can turn around and flip that bulldozer online or something, like I'll do it. I don't care. It's radio stereo equipment, radar detectors, whatever. Like, it's almost a swap shop. He loves the music gear and stuff, but sometimes you get a customer I've got this jukebox and I'd like to trade it for that Gibson. And you're like, what the hell? Let's do it. Right. If I can find a buyer, I'll make some money. Let's do it.
Yeah. I mean, everyone has their own business model, and that's where, you have to understand your time and your efforts that are being put forth in that. We did a lot of that, I think, early on, but with the growth of our business, and I'm not suggesting this isn't a bad, I'm not suggesting that what he's doing is wrong, because like I said, everyone has their own business model, what works for them. We found that we really need to focus more. As we were growing, we were just kind of going, every which way and trying to get every piece of the pie we could get. And we just realized that, hey, actually, even though we're making money, we might be losing money because of, the amount of time and effort that we need to put into that project, versus maybe we should put that time and effort to gaining a new school account.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. I think in his example, it definitely made sense because of what he's doing with his business. But you're right. There's, certainly in our business, we've made the same decision. We decided a couple of years ago that the amount of money and square footage that we were putting towards drums, for example, we could make better use of it if we stuck it in other parts of the business. So we, by and large, got rid of drums. And, so there's times where you're better off just to focus in on the areas that you excel at. And, a lot of big strategic business thinkers have made those same decisions along the line. If we can't be the top one or two in an industry or in our area, then what are we doing in that space? And we tend to think of that kind of same boat. If we can't be in the top one or two in our market, then in a category, drums, PA, band instruments, then maybe we should be trying to focus those efforts elsewhere.
Yeah, I learned a lot of that from reading Good to Great. Really powerful stuff about, because we were always like, hey, well, we can, make $1 here. We can make $1 here. That's $1.
Yeah.
But, where could you really focus and really focus on where are you profitable, and put your efforts towards the areas that you're most profitable in. and don't be afraid to, you know, say, hey, this is the better place to go and get that. And then the Pensacola is it Blue Angels?
Blues Angel, yeah.
I mean, he obviously has the eBay. He's mastered that. That is his business. So for him, I applaud that, because he's like, well, heck, if I can sell this on eBay, I can sell anything on eBay. That's my business, eBay. So why wouldn't I take that opportunity to sell this product? I know how to work eBay. So
Yeah.
I think that's very innovative.
It's definitely like broadening your mind to think about what your business is, and well, at the same time, focusing in on it. So, you're opening your mind up to like, well, I'm selling things on eBay. That's a large part of my business, and it's focused on the music gear side, but it doesn't have to be limited to that.
Right.
I've got a side business where I sell high-end electric bass guitars, and I'm looking next to me, and I had a customer trade in a bunch of guitar gear towards it. And, my business doesn't cater around guitar gear, but the reality is, well, I could sell this guitar gear on eBay pretty easily. And, so that's fine. Even though I don't have any interest in the guitar gear itself, like, it's fine. I'll just turn around and do it because it's easy, and why not?
Yeah, that is kind of the beauty of, I know we all sometimes complain about the internet, but there's so much opportunity out there. I mean, eBay, as an example, it basically allows you to expand your business to every customer in the world.
Yeah.
Choose. And, if you traded that guitar gear in and didn't have an eBay avenue, man, who knows when you would move that.
Yes.
Now you'll probably move it in, a week.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly right. I haven't had the chance to personally visit your stores, but I almost got to earlier this year, and I've definitely looked at them online. And, you've just done such a great job of building really attractive looking stores, which is very important, I think, especially for what you were doing, school music, dealing with families, having moms come in and shop. Like, you want it to be an environment that they feel like, first of all, is safe, and second of all, professional, that they can trust you with their financial information and so on and so forth. But then third, probably a business that, hey, it's worth me spending money in this business because this business is, professional, and they've made the investment where I'm comfortable making the investment in them. How did that skill set kind of come about for the theater of retail and merchandising and design? Is that something you've outsourced? Is that something someone in your company's doing? How have you handled that?
It's been a little bit of a combination. Our very first trek into that model was when our first location in our San Diego store. Chris Miller, I believe is his name. He used to
Pacific Store Designs.
Yeah, he used to do the NAMM. Every year there used to be a NAMM store.
Yeah.
Not so often anymore. So we were the NAMM store in 2000. And, he kind of opened our eyes to, the concept of, a nice retail friendly environment really is going to be more inviting for the customers. So we've used him on a few of our designs, I think 3. But the last one, when we moved our San Diego location, we kind of did it on our own. It wasn't as much me. I have to give credit to my dad, and then Joel, and then one of our employees who's kind of a jack of all trades, Kata. They just went in and kind of did the layout and the design. And just, try to make it as customer friendly as possible. I remember visiting, I'm part of a couple different groups. We're in the IMMG group, and then I have a couple smaller groups that I participate in. And I remember visiting the store once, and when I was giving my feedback, I said, the store seems dark. And he said, that's what I'm going for. And I said, okay, well, if that's your customer base, that's great. But, I want something that makes me feel, bright and cheery when I walk in the store and comfortable. not like, how do I find something because it's too dark. But
Yeah. So it's interesting that you mentioned Chris Miller, but so we have 4 retail stores in our 5th warehouse location. 2 of our retail stores were professionally designed. One of them in the late 90s by Chris. So that's kind of funny that we both have that same connection there. And then the other one in 2009 by a local commercial architect and commercial designer. And it shouldn't probably be a surprise, but my 2 best performing stores are those 2 stores, the ones that were professionally designed. The store I just relocated in Kansas City this year, I designed it, but I used a lot of the design influences that have been used in our other stores, and I was on a tight budget, too tight of a budget, to be honest with you. And but it's just not as expensive as one might think to have a professional come in and design this out for you,
Right.
And especially if you don't have, now if you're like the next iteration of Joanna Gaines, or you're you got a future in HGTV or something, then knock yourself out. But most of us, commercial store design, you really should look at bringing in an outside expert to help with that.
Yeah, because the colors and the flow, and it really makes a huge difference to that customer.
It does. It does. It sends all kinds of signals to your customer, which helps develop trust, and which ultimately helps you to grow and build your business. And it's an investment. It truly is an investment. It's not an expense, and it's one that, in my experience, has paid off. Just has really paid off over and over and over again over time. So
yeah. I remember when we had Chris do our Mission Viejo store, which was the second store we had him do, and the colors he picked, and I thought, oh my gosh, what are you doing? And it's just perfect match. It just, I just love walking into that store. It just gives you a smile.
Yeah. My store in Joplin was the same way. There's still elements of that store I don't like. But some of those elements are some of the same things that customers like, oh my gosh, I love the floors in that store. And I'm like, I hate the floors in that store. But everybody else loves it. So what do I know? I'm not a designer. So
right.
Yeah, I should keep my opinion
So
to myself.
We wouldn't be doing this podcast. We'd be on HGTV right now. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. Before our interview today, I was talking with, we want to redo our website. And I was talking with some folks to do it. And they're asking my opinions about stuff. And I finally just kind of had enough. I was like, guys, if I had a bunch of opinions on this stuff, we wouldn't be sitting here today. Like, you can see my site. Clearly, I have no idea what I'm doing. So, just tell me what I need to do. Here's what I want to be, but you tell me what it needs to happen after that. Don't ask me for it. It's like the doctors saying, like, what treatment do you think you need? It's like, hell if I know. I'm not the one with the medical experience and degree. Oh, gosh. Anyway, okay. You had mentioned earlier about a Lifeline customer saving program, and you gave a simple example of customers past the return period, but I have an idea that probably goes actually a lot further than that. To kind of explain a little more about that. So obviously your frontline employees, they've got a budget that they're able to work with. What does that budget look like, and then how does that change per employee?
I believe, and again, this was designed by Joel and one of my general managers, Dennis. So I'm going to paraphrase it, but I believe just a regular retail sales staff employee has a $50 lifeline. And then if you're a sales lead, you can go up to $100. And then if you're a store manager, I don't remember the number. It might be 250, and maybe general manager might be as high as 500, or maybe it's somewhere in between there. But a senior person has a lot of leeway to make that decision, and just make sure that whatever they need to do they can do. And the biggest thing about this, because I tell people about this all the time, they're like, "Oh, you're crazy. You're letting your employees make those decisions. What if they make the wrong decision? What if they just give product away?" The amount of time that you save from not having to deal with all of those customers one-on-one is just unbelievable. Because before, "Oh, Jeff, this guy wants to return a tuner. It's been 45 days. Can you come help him?" Really? I mean, that's just a waste of my time.
Yep.
So,
Yep. I bet the people that question the wisdom in that are those older retailers that kind of rule everything with the closed fist.
right.
I think it's a very intuitive thing for anyone who's more accustomed to the way business is done today. Everything is just open, transparent, quick, easy. You need to return it? Sure, return it. Like, that's just more and more the way things are today. And you're exactly right. Will you have some people abuse this policy? Of course you will, but like not that many. The vast majority won't, and you'll have a ton of people that appreciate you for it.
Yeah, we don't make policies for the exceptions. If you try to make policies on that rare exception,
Yes.
you're never going to get anywhere. And the reality is that these employees, they value this, and they feel part of, the Bertrands music family, and they don't just take advantage of it. We've implemented a tracking system also. So as the Lifeline is an option in AMZ for the paid out. So instead of cash, check, or charge, they choose their Lifeline, and it shows up in our daily deposit. So every day when we're closing out our daily deposits, we can see if Lifeline's were used, and if there's a high amount or something, we can pull it up and we can say, "Hey, can you walk me through this scenario? Let's see, why did you make this decision?" And you get a learning lesson.
That's smart. I love that. Yeah, I mean, if anyone takes just only one takeaway from our conversation today, that the thing you just said about don't create policies off of single instances, and don't punish all your customers for the bad actions of a couple. Like you just can't do that. You're going to seriously hamstring your business by doing that.
Yeah, we've always been, not always, but when my dad first started, we were a rent to own model. But many, many years ago, we switched to a rent where we apply purchase towards a new instrument, which is not as common. I don't know. I think a couple of our competitors have actually copied us now, but so in that model, sometimes when that customer's been renting a long time, you end up losing. And often we struggle with this decision. Is this the right way to go about it? Should we change this? What should we do? But you win so many more times than you lose. We don't want to change such a valuable program that we offer or benefit in our rental program over those few exceptions.
Yep, I totally agree. Okay, so we'll shift gears here a little bit. Tell me, what kind of stuff are you working on right now? So as of today, it's May 22nd, 2020. And everyone kind of knows what their life is at with the coronavirus and COVID-19 stuff. What's your life been during all this, and what are you working on right now?
So we as a company have really taken advantage of this downtime to, I shouldn't say downtime, the fact that our stores were closed for 2 months, to do projects that we have not gotten to for whatever reason. So as an example, we've spent a lot of time on our website and updating our website, getting more product on our website. We have worked hard to have a very, very good rental website. It's very easy for the customer. It's quick. And that was our focus, because that is where our core business lies, is on the rentals. But we really didn't bother with the sales side because, we figured we're never going to compete with, Musician's Friend and Woodwind Brasswind and Amazon. And, why is someone going to shop with us? But the reality is, many of our customers are visiting our site now before they come to our store. And even if they're not making that purchase online, if they don't see the product, they might just assume, why am I going to go in there? Because they don't have that product. So we spend a lot of time on our website. And then the other real focus we've had is on content. So we've had, a mission to create content for probably 5 years. Who knows how long? Every NAMM show we come back. Okay, yes, this is the year. We got to do this. Videos are in now, whatever it might be,
Right.
Like, all right, the next NAMM show comes around and we didn't do any. We did a few. So we really took advantage of this, and it really enlisted the help of all of our staff. So we just said, you know what? You're a flute player. Do a beginning flute video.
Mm-hmm.
And, I have a saying, people don't like my saying, they disagree with me, but I say done is better than perfect. And so many people get so caught up in the, minute details of trying to make it perfect that they never get the project done.
Yeah.
And it's so important to complete that project. So I just said to my managers, I said, look, we got 6 flute players, make all of them make a video. We'll take the best of whatever they can. And, we're providing a lot of content and resources so that our teachers can send their musicians, which distance learning, is becoming, it may be with us much longer than we anticipate. And it may become morphed. It may be part of, the future of learning, part in person, part distance. So we're just creating as much content as we can. So we want those directors to have the resources they need so that they can get those musicians what they need information wise, and really help them in this time of crisis, because they, a lot of teachers I talk to are like, holy smokes, I can't believe the amount of work that they're asking me to do. I can't do everything that they're asking me to do, and I have to create this content. I create these lesson plans. So we're trying to do as much as we can to create content to help our customers and our teachers help their students.
On your rental website, what's the CMS or the technology behind that? Are you using the ASP.NET ActiveE plan from AIMSI, or are you using something else for that? We're
using AIMSI as the backbone, just because that is, that's our point of sale program. The last thing we want to do is have to re-enter information.
Right.
The front, we were able to redesign a lot of the front end steps. So, we creatively, I should actually go to work for AIMSI because I have a lot of workarounds. So, Paul, if you're listening to this, if my business goes belly up in COVID, I might. But, AIMSI isn't perfect, but nothing is. And, it's very solid, and there's a lot of good foundation there.
Yeah.
And we've been able to, utilize what they've done and manipulate it or for what we want to do. Let's face it, they're building, this is what I tell people all the time when they complain. I'm like, let's face it, they're building a platform for thousands of customers. Just because you think it's a good idea doesn't mean the other 999 or 10,000 or however many customers they have does. So yeah, maybe it does make perfect sense, but they can't do everything for everybody. So they have to, they have to meet in the middle somewhere.
Yeah. Well, and I could tell from like just some of the underpinnings that that's likely what it was, but you can see that you've put a lot of effort on the skin and like to make it look less like a template site like what they have. How have you pulled off the prepay get 1 month free? I mean, getting a little into the weeds here on some nuts and bolts, but I see that you've got that as an option. So for anyone who isn't looking at your site, you offer a monthly rental option. But then you also have an option where if they pay for the 9 months up front, they basically get the 10th month for free. How is that being on a technical end? How's that being implemented through the site and through AIMSI?
So you basically just have to create a different, each rental has a code assigned to it, which tells you the dollar amount. So one of the interesting things that I learned early on is you can use the same SKU multiple times over. So if RCL is your rental SKU, as an example, you can use RCL and have a platform that is a month-to-month rental. And then you can use RCL again and have it as a platform that's a 9-month rental. And
Gotcha.
Even though it's the same SKU, so it pulls into AIMS correctly, by using that code identifier, whether it be a 1 or a 10 or whatever it is, that's the code identifier is what tells AIMSI what the price is to charge. There is a little bit of manual manipulation in that because we have to manually move that up. It won't pull in 10 months. So when that comes in, our staff has to know to go down and say, change the 1 month of prepays to 10.
Gotcha.
We also have a double check at the end of the night where we run the report and we verify that all the next payment dues have been corrected.
And what percentage of your customers would you guess take advantage of the prepay for 9 months option?
It depends on the area of the store. The stores in more economically influent areas take advantage, but probably 20%. So the real nice thing is it just gives you that, especially if you're doing a fall dating October, November, December, or whatever the terms might be, to get all that money up front really helps you with cash flow on paying those fall dating payments.
Yeah. Is that how you're handling the payment of your rental inventory? Are you paying it just in the fall dating terms, or are you using some kind of extended financing terms for the wholesale purchase of inventory?
It depends on the vendor. So we have varying terms. And of course, it depends on the dollar amount. Whenever possible, I prefer just the traditional fall dating terms. Because as you start to push things too far out, then you start to run into cash flow issues, which we've definitely experienced in our growth. Growth also creates a lot of cash flow issues because there's so many more things that you have to do when you have 8 locations and so many more responsibilities that you didn't have before. And it costs money to do those things.
Right. Yeah. Anyone who's not been in business very long will be surprised to know that. But anyone who's done this for 10 years or more will know that growth is a cash hog, without a doubt. Yeah, without a doubt. It's important. It's necessary for your business, but it eats your cash.
I love when the manufacturers come to me. Hopefully, they don't get mad at me, but you're killing it this year. I'm like, really? My cash flow doesn't look like it.
Yeah. I know I'm killing something. I'm just killing my cash flow. Yeah. That's never a good sign. I usually know that, like, when the manufacturer's praising us, "You're having a great year," I'm like, yeah, I can feel it because I'm behind now. I don't have any money. I must be doing great with you. And the times when they complain, gosh, what's going on with your business? Your sales are down. You're like, I don't know, man. I got plenty of cash. I don't care. I must not be buying all your stuff. Oh, goodness. Well, last couple of questions here, because this has been really great. And what's funny, of course, not everyone knows this, but I send each interview list of sample questions, and but we usually don't get all the way through them. We basically never got out of the opening section just because there's so much interesting stuff that kind of came around that. And so there's whole other sections of questions I would love to ask, but we'll have to do that for a follow-up at some point. But tell me about a negative situation that you've experienced in your business or business career that ultimately ended up having a positive effect on your business, but you wouldn't want to repeat it again.
So, thank you for sending those questions in advance, because that was definitely a challenging one. I was like, is Donovan like interviewing me for a job or something here? I mean,
Maybe, you never know.
So I kind of gave some thought to that. And I think one of the most negative or challenging things that we faced is when our competitors were growing into our area. I remember a specific time, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago or so, where it was announced at a NAMM show that our competitor was buying a store, like literally, a half a mile from us. And this was one of our foresights, or this is a mistake we made, because we never reached out to this individual. We did not have a good relationship. He did not like us because we really impacted his business, and that's why he was selling. We just assumed he was just going to go out of business, and we were going to have this market. And so I just remember all the work we had done, and then coming back from that NAMM show, when vendors and people were, how you feel about this? Did you hear this? And I just felt so dejected. And I thought, wow, we worked so hard. And now, here's this really strong competitor that's going to be in our backyard. And, even some of the other stores that I was friends with, some of them had worked for this other competitor. They're like, oh yeah, we don't know what we're going to do. Like, he's going to kill you. And the positive of it was, we had gotten a little complacent, and, it really challenged us, to become a better store and a stronger store. And at the end of the day, we actually turned out so much better because of what happened, because, we just upped our game, and we really, got out of that complacency. But with that said, I don't want to do it again. I've done it once, and actually we are doing. I mean, we've done it multiple times. Are we allowed to name music store names on this podcast?
Sure. Yeah, of course.
So, I don't know how we got on the M&A hit list, but somehow we're on their hit list now. And we heard, I guess 2 years ago now, at an industry gathering of some sort, that they were literally opening a store like a half a mile from us. And it was brilliant by them. I have to give them credit, because literally, in California, everyone goes on the freeway, right? That's how you get in.
Right.
Well, they position themselves where you literally have to get off the freeway and drive right by them before you can get to us.
Yeah.
And so far we're holding our own, but it's just, it gets tiresome to continue to have to fight that fight. And a lot of times when new competitors come in, they go to the directors and they, lots of promises. And most of the directors that I talk to about most of our competition, they said, yeah, they promised me this or they promised me that. But at the end, it turns out to be a lot of empty promises.
Yeah.
And then one more thing that I just thought of was, and this goes back to the partnership and the relationship. When the initial incident happened in San Diego, this store went to all of the directors and called a meeting at our state educational show. with all the directors and said, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, we're gonna do this. And then after the meeting, the teachers got together and they were all excited. And one of our strongest supporters said, guys, time out. Bertrands has been helping us for 15 years. You just want to throw that away because they come in and say this or that? And he really was, a forefront in, helping us maintain a lot of our business in that district.
That's fantastic. It's so important to build that kind of loyalty and appreciation between you and your customers. And you build that by putting them first.
Yeah.
You do that by like what you started this with, figuring out how you can say yes. How can you be the partner that they need you to be? So finally, if you could send a message to yourself 10 years ago, so you're going to send this back to roughly 2010, what message would you send?
Yeah, this was a tough one too. I was like, wow. I think if I really had to send a message back, this message might be the same. Stop and smell the roses. I spent a lot of time, a lot of hard work trying to, make sure our business was strong, that all of our employees, could support their families. That sometimes I think I missed out on, some other opportunities to just, enjoy life. I'm enjoying life a little bit more now than I used to. And then I think the other part of that is just, you don't have to have every single dollar. There is plenty of dollars out there. And you know what? Somebody else got that dollar. It's okay.
Yeah. Knowing what to chase and what to let go is important.
Yeah. And that's funny because, I still see it today, this mentality that, Guitar Center has shifted their model, but, they had this, in my opinion, they had this mentality of, we're going to drive prices down and eliminate competition. You're never, ever going to eliminate competition. I mean, look at Sweetwater Music. I mean, here's a company that started in an industry that we didn't need another company. And look at the market share that they've gained. That just shows you that, if you did eliminate them, somebody else would go, wow, there's an opportunity in the music industry because these are the only guys now.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Any of that kind of thinking is just totally erroneous and time wasted. Any time of effort to, eliminate your competition. One should not focus so much on their competition. Just focus on your customer and the rest of it will work out. All right. And then what message do you want to send to yourself 10 years in the future?
Well, 10 years from now, I'm going to be retired. So.
Really? How'd you manage that?
Well, that's my goal.
Gotcha.
But COVID might have changed my goal. But, I think, make sure that you are, training your replacement. You can't be promoted if you can't be replaced. And, you can't do this all on your own. So the only way you're going to get to your goal from 10 years from now is with the help of, great staff members, which we are very, very fortunate to have a very, very loyal and solid team that really cares about music education, which is what we care about. And they also care about Bertrand's music.
Well, that's a wrap for this episode. If you'd like help with your business, check out musicretailconsulting.com for articles, resources, and coaching and consulting services. Also, you can subscribe to this podcast so you're aware of future updates and rate and review while you're at it. Thanks for listening.